буквально пару слов скажу о том, что из себя представляет наш трек для тех, кто первый раз с нами в этом году. Это секции докладов 2 дня, то есть в этом шатре Лавлейс, в Бэббидже, в Горохове и далее по программке. Здесь вокруг
the halls as well. We are in Cyber City to discuss different aspects of development. It's an interesting program, very powerful reports. We had 3 requests per slot, so we could have a good choice, and we chose the most interesting reports. We plan a community D-Day for Saturday. I will tell you about it later. And accordingly, join our community. A lot of things that I'm going to say in my presentation and in other presentations, all that will be published. Well, I'm not going to announce anything else. Hi, everyone. Again, I am Vladimir Kochetkov. I didn't have a chance to write my name there. It doesn't matter what I do, actually. Today we are going to discuss not exactly technical things, but rather personal experience. And my presentation is not related to the place where I work, with the team that I work with. We are going to talk about programming as art. Is it art, actually? It's an interesting subject. There are 2 schools of opinion. One believes that this is pure engineering. Everything is done formally on request with the use of algorithms, pipelines, conveyors. For example, there are games, simple games, match 3, balls, marbles. This is a conveyor. They can generate 1 game per week. There is no art, absolutely. There is no creativity, even in design. Everything is determined, predetermined. This is a conveyor. But there is another area. When in that area we generate code, we create something, we design something, we express ourselves. They are engineers and artists. And today I am going to talk, well, just a moment, please. I'm going to discuss the question if source code is a product of creative design. I'm not imposing my point of view. I just want to discuss a little bit. I have my personal opinion, but I am not going to present it at once. One more point. We have prizes for the best question, quite rational ones, books from Peter's publishing house. You will have a chance to ask questions. There are microphones in the aisles. You can get to the microphone and ask your question. You can see the microphones there and there. For my presentation, the author of the best question will get 2 books. Why these 2? This is the first edition of the book. This is the first translation of the book, The Pearl of Programming. I was a schoolboy there in high school, and this book changed my mindset. I wanted to be an architect,
собственно, разработки.
And as a result of reading that book, I became a software developer. Programming Pearls is the book, is the name of the book. So I liked the book. It changed my mindset. It changed all my life, actually. Well, I saw a lot of things that I saw in architecture. So it was 30 years ago, and I decided to tell you about these common things between programming and artistic architecture.
И начать, наверное, нам стоит
So let's begin with the obvious thing. What is in common between software development and creative art? Let's take painting.
очередного шедевра.
So if you start working, we have a sheet of paper, clean white sheet of paper,
на котором надо что-то начать делать.
where you have to start doing something. So
как правило, не пустой, там IDE скелетик
empty screen, empty sheet of paper.
И возникает такое ощущение, такое...
And there is a feeling that, well, both the developer and the artist is the fear of a clean sheet. When the artist doesn't like to break that cleanness, to do something wrong, and create everything from the very beginning. The painters, as a result, never give you a clean sheet of paper. They damage it. They do something on it, and then you are about to improve. So at first, a person, a painter, makes a few spots, and then he goes from general to tiny, subtle details. And when I was a student, I started doing the same with source code. I wrote what I wanted to do, what kind of functions, what kind of features, and then everything was red, compilation errors, and then I did everything to eliminate those red things. I'll show you a number of test prototypes, and you will see that principle in practice. Interesting. That's the way we work now. In co-files, you write in Russian and then generate code.
За страхом чистого листа, как правило, стоит такое
The fear of a clean list leads to the paradox of choice. When we have an immense amount of versions. For example, you have a lot of things to put on, and the person says, well, I don't know what to put on. Or you have 500 games and you cannot choose one to play right now. Our brain cannot choose the optimal option if you have a lot of choices. And we refrain from choosing at all. The fear of a clean sheet, the fear of choice. If you have a function, if you need a certain feature, it's easier than wrote, generate a huge thing, and the developer can be lost. This is the difference between a researcher and a developer. Well, if you put a clear framework, then within those frameworks you can generate the code. That's the programmer, but the researcher doesn't need any frames, any limits. What is common between us and the artists? Errors. We make mistakes. It's a real historical thing. It happened about 20 years ago. There was Paul Cézanne, you know, that impressionist French artist. He became popular, and he got a letter from a group of students who were just started learning the art of painting in the impressionist way. There was a leader, and he asked Cézanne to give them some advice. And Cézanne has been thinking for a long time, and he didn't know what to do. And then he said, we have a triangle, a circle, and a square. Three things, and a flat surface. And in your head, you have to keep all those three and then approximate what you have to do. Strange as it may seem, at one of the exhibitions he saw those pictures when all the surfaces, triangles, squares, and rounds were there, very much simplified. And there was nothing there. And so Cubism appeared, and the young student was called Pablo Picasso. So he understood Cézanne literally. Of course, something can be exaggerated in this story, but I've been working for more than 20 years in development. I saw similar stories when I misinterpreted the ideas of my boss and did something which was even better than what he meant. So we are going to discuss a lot during these 2 or 3 days. Please come to me, let's discuss, exchange views. When I misinterpreted my manager and then developed something interesting, for example, it was about reading scientific articles. If I take that article, I read the synopsis and leave it alone. And I think about how I could solve that problem if I were a researcher. And after that, I start reading the article itself. Sometimes I think the same way as the researcher, and it's very encouraging. Or, on the contrary, I think the other way around. I made a mistake, and I have to do something about myself. I have to improve my knowledge in certain areas. Well, errors in creativity and in development can work for a long time. And let me give you example of GeoDeo. In Quake, there was a jump which was a bug actually, but you can get higher speed than was limit. It was 300 units per second. It was an error, and the developer of Quake tried to eliminate it, but people say, well, we use it in competitions, keep it as it is. One more thing which is important, it's about the initial stages of development. It's prototypes. For example, if you go to the Tretiakov gallery, a sketch is sometimes a full-scale work, a fragment of a larger picture. In Tretiakov gallery, you have a lot of things when a lot of large painters surrounded by small sketches. And if you put that sketch aside, it can be regarded as a separate picture showing us how the artist looked for a solution. Same picture, different colors, different shades. And we developers have prototypes. It's the same. We're looking for patterns, we're looking for different ideas, data structure, and so on.
Both those things are first steps in a big journey, which is another similarity between visual arts and software development. Each person has their own signature style. In art, this would be the color scheme, ambience, presentation, which can apply to installations or performances. God forbid you attend any. In development, this would be the structure, naming of variables, which can be different even within one and the same style guide. It's a way of expression. There are many patterns like this. I don't use the visitor pattern because in tree-like structures, I've learned to not do that. Tabulation. This contest between tabbing it and using spaces. People have broken many spears over this. And in art, it's the same. Different hues, shades of color. This can be even more violent than tabs versus spaces. You might posit that an artist is fully free, they have creative license, whereas developers are bound by their corporate structures. In game dev, for example, artists are not fully free. They have style guides, they have the artwork, they have the characters, they have to stick to certain guidelines. It's the same principle applied to other things. As a free artist or a free developer, you have the license and you can express your personality through code or art. This is what I wrote, but this was a long time ago. A small caveat. I was doing some research. It's longer, I had to zoom it in for the backbenches. It has a lot of comments like hack, to do, hard code. And this was my way of communicating with my colleagues. They saw what bits of code gave me pause, where additional research was needed. So it was a back and forth for comments. Code is a formal language. right? In programming languages, you have line literals and comments where you can sidestep this formal grammar, well, except for marking it as a literal or a comment. But who reads that? Who needs asserts in the code? Anything not equal true or comma C#, you'd add a commented line literal. Must not be false based on this business process. But then who reads this? That's our colleagues. That's how we communicate through code. Compiler discards all that in assert, except for debugging, but anyway. Variable names can be really fun and meme generating, but it doesn't matter per se. It just says that as developers, we do communicate through code, and any means of communication can be a vehicle for expression.
Все, наверное, слышали, ну, или даже читали, да, дурно пахнущий код, код с душком.
You've read Code Smells, I guess.
Это все объединяет. Оно появилось...
There are different translations, some are profane, but anyway. It's a set phrase, and there is a background. I've seen it firsthand. It works, it functioned, it has been tested, it's in production after QA, but you look at it and at first glance, you want to revamp it entirely. It complies with all the functional and non-functional requirements, but it's still icky. It smells, even if it works. It's your irrational feeling as a human. Doesn't have to do with programming. This is your drive for improvement, your aspiration for things to be better. And it's my test for maturity as a professional, where I don't have this urge to rewrite and keep on improving on the code. You onboard a junior and they start rewriting things, even if the quick fixes were hard-earned. Senior developers that have exposure and have experience, a sense of elegant code, can also start such reworks just to pretty it up. But what is pretty or beautiful in this context? Here we are talking aesthetics, and it's a term in the realm of art. Yes, there is this notion of the code aesthetic. It's like, as a developer, if you had a linter which keeps pestering you, rewrite, improve, just sometimes it's beauty at the expense of performance. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The golden rule that's there for a reason. This is a functional code. As a fractal, it's really nice. It pleases the eye, even if it doesn't do anything meaningful, but it works. Aesthetics can be different, visual and semantic or meaningful. We'll get back to it. This example is obviously visual, if you're into fractals. There is this movement in painting as well, fractal painting. And this is at the intersection. I've had this idea for a long time, developing your own static analyzer from scratch. I have some experience with it. I wanted to start off with most basic pattern matching. You take tokens or AST nodes, come up with templates to identify specific patterns. the first step in statistical analysis. Then you have data flow with different models, simulations. So I wanted to write a bunch of articles. I started developing it, some quasi-code, which I needed. Well, I'm NDA'd here a bit. I needed to train a model on a data set that I would generate through code. This could be done on the syntax level, and then you just read it out manually. It wasn't that big. And then you get a data set. This could be done for SIEM grab. We have application inspector for this as well. But I just wanted to embed something into this process. Needed some interim exports in debugger. So quasi-matching, I would use it at work and for the articles. It's a bother. You have to come up with a language, you have to develop it, you have to match it with code. And then I got this idea. I take some credit for it. We'll get back to it on Saturday. A funny story. We had a prototype in Application Inspector for 3 years almost. If you used it, our products, you might have seen it. These are regular expressions, bare-bone expressions. But there are named groups. That's what you have in Python. And then the extension was pretty simple. You can have a colon and identify a group where it would need to be matched. A regular expression, but it only engages if it's a line literal or an identifier. You have a flow of tokens that you use to steer it. It's all on the screen. This gives you a lot of opportunities to design templates. Some were automated, but I've picked and chose something for the slides. Hard-coded secrets, for example. Secret token, key, password. You assign it, and then there is the hard code for the secret. You can take SQL injection as a button. There's going to be query, SQL, assignment, and then you take identifier and the literal. It's an isolated case, but that's for you to narrow down the selection. Just as by way of example, you need too many of those to catch all injections. Command injection through sub-processes or shells and envelopes. Identifier is OS system. It contains call run open. Then it gets passed a different identifier, which means that it could be an attack. It's not vulnerability, but you need to double-check the variable or identifier to see if it's a vulnerability or not. What do you think? There is the functionality. How many lines of code do you need? I wasn't going to show this today, but it gives me an aesthetic high, actually, because this is 18 lines of code. Bar imports, this is 15 lines. This bit of code gets you there, what I've been laying out. I'll have to improve on this. But I don't think I want to, because it'll get bloated. I'll not go through here line by line. We can take it offline. We can go to a debugger station. I'll show you how it works. It's not a snippet. Well, you need to run it through console, but this is the function. And it applies to any language, not just Python. You feed it the language, you pass it the code and the template. This is the entire function that does it. Pleases the eye. I appreciate the beauty. Maybe the article will never get published, because after this peak, I'm losing interest, apparently. And then in AST, you cannot get it done with 15 lines anyway. There are properties to code as well that parallel arts. Not just visual arts, there are some unique properties in creative code. Executability. You can run it, but how does it relate to art? You can appreciate the code visually, or you can be put off by it, but then you can get a similar sense, similar experience by running it. If it's simple, you can do it in your head or snippets of it. Any developer would do this. Or you run it through a debugger. Not too pleasant usually, but people do that. This makes code more similar to theater and performance arts. It's an activity. There is a script, as in a play. You can read it and it can give you aesthetic pleasure. But it needs to be performed in its original conception. That's how you get the most out of it. It's just the rules of the game. And it's very similar to code. There is a script, and you have to run it. Many aesthetic parameters or properties of code only manifest when you run it. Well, another property. Coding is creative art, but it has consequences. As an artist, you'll never get woken up with a phone call saying that this last bit you added ruined our whole exhibition. An artist is allowed mistakes in something that you would call prod, like an exhibition. This doesn't work in development. It's a meme, but that's a real-life story. In CT scanners, people got irradiated because of coding mistakes, and it's a liability. This gives you a sense of responsibility and a sense of tension. You want it to be nice and beautiful, but then it needs to work, be secure, safe, and pass QA. It's almost a real-life story, another one. The artist, Ilya Repin, was prohibited from entering the Tretyakov's gallery if he had an easel, because he couldn't let go of his paintings. He went to the rooms where his paintings were and was improving them still. It's not confirmed with the gallery, but there is a documented story where he sold a painting to a collector and then started improving on it. I think we developers are the same. First, we need to be prodded to release something in prod, and then you still come up with additional commits, even if it works. Not always the case, but it happens. What else makes coding stand out as compared to arts? It's multimodal. Another buzzwords on the hype of LLM, but it's not just visually aesthetic. It's not just executable. There is the beauty of logic, the style of comments. It can be artistic. It can evoke emotion. There is a book, highly recommended if you're into Go, 100 mistakes in Go. It's a screen grab from there. It's part of the book. That's the first time I saw this. They proposed this line, the happy path. All true operators are along the same intent, and false are indented a bit further. That's for you to get at a glance what's expected of that code. You skim the left part, and you already know. So it's the happy path and the path of mistakes. Indentation. You can look at it as true, false, but there is a different angle. As in music, beats. Up and down, up and down. That's like musical rhythm. It's hinted at in the book as well. This way of making the code determines a certain rhythm as you read it. I think every musical person came up with this because it's a rhythm in the end. But in art, there are different types of rhythm, not just musical. You have the rhythm of the body. As you put something onto a drawing, you have to mind the muscles of your subject. And if you compile them rhythmically, based on a solid knowledge of anatomy, the sense of volume will just pop at you from the screen with minimal means. In portraiture, do you know what the artist starts painting a portrait? You'd never guess. The oval of the face, obviously, yes, the head, but then what comes next? They start with the ears, and there is a reason for that. Here's my ear, right? I trace my fingers to where I have my nose and the space between the brows. It's more or less the same for all people. There are ratios in these proportions. There is a number of heads that you'd have in your body or then in your head. The ratio is pretty much set. It's a rhythm. Music, visual arts, and in code as well. I found this task, this problem, and I had some fun with assigning it. Why 24? You have a sequence to the left. There are arithmetic operations. And then you need to make an expression to have 24. It's hard to do it in your mind, because out of all the combinations, operators and parentheses, there is just one correct answer that gets you 24. And then there is a catch as well. If you're interested, I'm not going to spoil it. I'll just say that there is a catch, and it's not evident for us. It's an Olympiad, an open contest. I'll be briefing you on this as well. And we printed such problems out on Dixie cups as well. The organizers of this particular activity asked me for more problems like this. 24 is Googleable. I wrote a code that can solve this problem and generate a bunch of other problems like this. A sequence of numbers, operators, parentheses, just one outcome. The code was elegant. I had some symbolic calculation, I have reverse notation, something like fuzzing as well. It's 2 screens of code, like around 150 lines. I was really happy with myself. And then some of our colleagues decided to develop the code that would solve it. Dmitry Sklarov is our head of reverse development or reverse engineering. When I saw his solution, I felt that I do not know Python at all, and I've barely scratched the surface of algorithms. It's extremely elegant. It's executable as shown, a recursive algorithm. That's the entirety of it. It goes through the pairs, number and operator, and then through recursion, it brute forces the other part. Something akin to quicksort. I could only solve it with 2 screens of code. And this, just look at this. That's pure joy. And then to learn as well how it works, how it solves the problem. And it does that instantly. My code was markedly slower. Dmitry, thanks you once again. Dmitry gave his consent for me to show this. Dmitry, thank you for this experience. Then it begs the question, if we assume that coding is art, who's the audience? And there are different audiences, creative arts and coding arts. The essence of code is formal logic. It's an imperative prescriptive language. You describe a sequence of steps, and it's hard computation at all times. As we contemplate the code or as we develop it, we get this joy out of a sense of order. There is causality, there is human intention from the developer for asserts or comments. It's about order. People appreciate order over chaos. And then the code sings in your head. You run it in your mind as well. And if it's stellar code, like I've just shown from Dima, it gives you joy. Some people appreciate visual things. Some people appreciate audio things. That's the primary input, sensory input. People are different like this. Some are visual, others are audio, then there is tactile type, kinesthetics, and then there are discretes or digital first people. People who engage with the world through order, logic, causality, which makes them more formal, in a way, formalized. And in terms of classical mathematical logic, they perceive reality through it, through logic. I am one of such people, and I'm also visual, but my primary input is logic. If there is no order in what I'm looking at, I'm not interested. And these are people who best fit for coding. I see in graphs causalities and all. So this art is not for everybody. In the end, it's not all people would perceive coding as art. For some, it's pure engineering. In closing, last but not least, LLMs have come to the fore, AI, but can they be creative, especially if we assume that coding is art? Not going to give you a conclusion, I'll just give you a setting, a setup. Prompts are bits of human language text. There is a creative intent behind it at all times. If you prompt in, please develop a stat analysis tool that uses this logic for that language. For the first iteration, you need to write it up. But this is the purpose that you manifest through this text that has intent. It'll be designed by AI, but you need to be creative. It's art as well. Just look at all the courses that teach you prompt engineering. People post their successful prompts as well, and I think that this is art. which is similar to another medium, literature or rhetoric, which is also a type of art. It's not visual, but yes, it's creative. That's how we engage with AIs in an artistic way. So is AI an assistant or a muse? I do not believe that AI will ever get to the level that it can churn out ready-to-use code. You'll still need a human component to test it, to fix it. I'm not seeing it from where we are today. I've been working in this area for 18 months or more. I don't think it's happening. You can, well, present it by way of performance from stage where it's cued. But it's not like this in life.
So there is something regular, and I want to say whether it is going to lead to catastrophic backtracking and exponential growth of time of operation. I generated two phases. The first one is coding. I talk to ChatGPT in Russian until I get the first version. At the second stage, I believe that I can interfere with the code, correct, test, but phase one is for LLM. Phase one took 12 hours, phase two, 4 hours. Why 12? Because I made an assumption that I'm not going to do anything about regulars, grammars, DOS, blah, blah, blah. So the AI should have explained it to me and offer some options. Some options were really interesting. It offered a symbol by symbol interpretation, dynamic symbol execution when we replace each construction with a function in Python, then we make eval and analyze. Interesting approach, dynamic execution. At phase one, ChatGPT didn't offer anything workable, so 12 hours. Then I proposed the following. Let's generate a phasor and find exponential time or non-exponential time. It agreed, then it generated a workable solution. We started phase two. Phase two took 4 hours. I'll tell you why. Yes, we've got a solution, but we wanted to get a nice solution, beautiful solution. And I think it did the job. If here we don't see anything beautiful, it's just a visitor which describes the tree of the regular and detect all the symbols which are repeated. A asterisk repetition, a dot asterisk brackets plus two repetitions. So we take all that and solve the problem. The fuzzer is quite elegant in comparison to the previous example. This is the entire phasor code. I can put it to GitHub or any other repository for you to see, to test, to try. It works very well. 25 regulars, they exactly define if it's susceptible to read-DOS or not. Well, I can describe it. I am here for the whole 3 days. Come to me, we shall try, test, check if necessary. But it works very well indeed. We can even correct something and look at quadratic expressions. Of course, you cannot do DOS for that, but those regulars are non-optimal, which require optimization. I was pleasantly surprised, and I would like to say, yes, AI is our future, is our assistance, if there are 2 ifs that I'm going to tell you in the end. First, at a certain point, I asked him, why do you say that this is secure and this is vulnerable, although they are very similar? Said, yes, you are quite right. This is a border case. Border case 5.29 is the exponentiality case, the second case of redos. Why secure? He explained. Second point, I asked him, usint to redos, there is no exponent. I see the time is linear, not exponential. He said, yes, 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 but it's not in Python. But why do you test in Python something which is not in Python? So it's why 4 hours then? At a certain point, everything was okay, and he said, yes, I can catch all exponentials, and I have different results. We run the same code. Why? Maybe it's old version of GPT. You know, if I take ChatGPT native and then other versions, sometimes you shouldn't mix it. I asked him, why do we have different results? It answered, why I work in a bad way, said, I didn't measure the time. So actually, it didn't do the job honestly. He just put the result which I expected, not the actual result. He substituted the results for those which I needed. Are we going to be replaced? No, not in my lifetime. Maybe in my grandchildren's lifetime, because we're going to see such errors again and again and again, even now. It's a good assistance, but please check and recheck it, because he can deceive you. If you check and recheck, everything will be all right. Muse, yes, it's all right, because I got the fuzzing regulars by reading what ChatGPT offered. Dynamic symbol execution. Why not? I thought, yes, let it be so. So, to conclude, all those who think and create will continue thinking and creating, and they will never be replaced by AI. As for everybody else, well, maybe. Thank you very much. Then please vote. Thank you. Please vote give your feedback. It's important, not only for me. All those people who fill in the form, the more presentations you evaluate, the better. After PhD, we're going to run a lottery. One more book about Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage. Now, let's take a few minutes from the next presenter. Just a few questions. One, two. Yes, I cannot hear you.
Раз. О, включилось.
1, 2. Yes, I can. Hi. Thank you for the presentation. It was unusual. We don't hear such presentations at such meetings. My question is like this. You say use LM for generating code. We are far from that. What about future using LLM for code analysis? So to replace static analysis. It's also a creative task. LLM, how far is it from ideal? Now, I am going to answer two questions. I didn't say that you have to generate code with LLM. LLM wouldn't be able to do it without human interference, but you can use it right now. Code analysis, yes, it's a creative task, it's not formal. Of course, we have editors who can use machine learning and analyze code by LLM, including even now it can do the job with, you have to help it. You have to help it. If a human being helps it, it's all right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Alexander. The question is about music. What about variations? If we have a code which works, which everyone understands, and if a developer wants to improve it for the sake of beauty or workability, it starts changing the code. How secure are those changes? How do you evaluate that striving for beauty and improvement from the point of view of security? How secure is that? Of course, it's a very good question. Yes, a person can make an error. If you don't stop a developer, he will do something bad in the end. Problems with security, stability, because beautiful is not always correct. Beautiful is not always functional. For an industry code, in the industry code generation, we have less creativity. I write codes, I make pictures, and I am a team leader. I do 3 jobs. I want people to express themselves, and I want the code to be correct, and I have time limits. The more industrial is the code, the less creativity, because the tasks are different. Because if you just have to paint the wall, no one is going to allow you to draw pictures on that wall. The task is different. Thank you for the presentation. I am Cyril. The question is about evaluation of beauty of the code. In art, of course, there are some evaluation criteria like symmetry, like golden section. What about code? What are the criteria? Are they different in different programming languages? We don't have such criteria because in music, There is mathematical Bach, and there are other areas without rhythm, without harmony, but some people like it, and some people believe it's beautiful. If we talk about golden section, well, it was good some time ago, but now some architects evade the golden section and get good results. So the criteria of beauty can be different. I showed you something which I like it, but maybe you didn't like it. Some people say that he can improve that code. It's not statistical analysis. Statistical analysis can be formalized, but evaluation of beauty in code, for example, beauty competitions. Some people agree with the jury, others do not. And it's very subjective. So it's a subjective evaluation, personal evaluation. Of course, there are some criteria like expandability, but it's not about beauty. So I cannot answer yes or no. Just take the statistical number of people that liked the code. That's it. I have another question. Why don't you organize code beauty contests? Well, we have stolen a lot of time from the next presentation. I would like to present the book to the author of the first question about statistical analysis.